Okay, so um, bankruptcy can assist with a foreclosure, whether you want to stop the foreclosure to keep the house or whether you want to stop the foreclosure to get more time to walk away. And it can be really important, even if you're not going to keep the house, even if you're going to walk away from the house, because it can save you from some potential tax issues and even code violation fines and potential jail time. So let me go into a little bit more detail about that. So if someone is facing a foreclosure, they've got a couple of options. They have to decide whether they want to keep the house or they want to let it go. So if they want to keep the house, filing a Chapter 13 would not only stop the foreclosure, it would give them the opportunity to catch up those payments that they're behind over time. And that can't be done in a Chapter 7. So if they're behind on the house, which they probably are because they've got this foreclosure out there, then it'll be really important to look at a Chapter 13 to be able to pay the arrears back and keep the house going forward. But sometimes people don't want to keep the house for various reasons. They may want to walk away. So that can be a little tricky if you do it outside of bankruptcy, and here's why. So let's say you have a foreclosure and the bank or the lender, the mortgage company, they sell the house in foreclosure, but they don't get enough to pay off fully what you owe them. Okay. So most of the time, they won't come after the homeowner for the difference. So let's say if they sold a house for $30,000 and the homeowner owed $70,000, okay, that's $40,000 that hasn't been paid off. It's very unlikely. Most mortgage companies don't come after, at least here in Georgia, they don't come after the homeowner for the difference. But what they will often do, and almost every time do, is issue an IRS Form 1099-C, as in cat, for the cancellation of debt. So just like any other 1099, that 1099-C that the mortgage company sends you for that $40,000 you didn't have to pay is considered income by the IRS. And depending on your tax situation, it can create a tax liability for you. So you went from having a debt problem with the house to now having a tax problem with the IRS. And very often that could be avoided by filing a bankruptcy to walk away from the house and have the debt discharged in bankruptcy, which doesn't create any tax issues, as opposed to canceled outside of bankruptcy. The other thing you have to be careful about in walking away from a house outside of bankruptcy is being responsible for any code violations on your property. So even when you walk away, until the foreclosure happens, the house is still in your name. And they count, let's say you walk away, you leave, you're not paying attention to the house, the grass gets overgrown, maybe vagrants break in and are living there, and there's broken windows and maybe some graffiti. So the house falls into kind of disrepair or neglect. Well, that status, that situation for the house probably violates housing code violations. And so housing code ordinances, right? And so the county or the city can bring you into court and say, we're going to fine you if you don't fix these things. And the way they know who to bring into court is because they look to see who was the owner of this property as of January 1st of this year, or at the time that it falls into disarray. So if you're just because you're not there, if your name is still on the property because the foreclosure hasn't actually happened and therefore the bank hasn't changed the name on the property, that can be a problem. So it it means you have to be careful just walking away. And then the last thing about walking away without a bankruptcy is because the property is still in your name, you can still be held, the homeowner can still be held responsible for the real estate taxes. So again, the county or the city will look to see who owned the property as of January 1st of that year. That's who they're going to hold responsible for the real estate taxes. And so if you walk away, but the foreclosure doesn't happen for several months and real estate taxes become due, even though you feel like you have nothing left to do with the house, the county could be collecting money from you for real estate taxes. And the longer those taxes go unpaid, they incur interest, and that debt is growing. So now you have this other debt associated with a house or a property that you, in your mind, had left behind. So bankruptcy can help kind of pull some of those issues in, avoid some of those issues, and have the foreclosure happen in an orderly way that protects you against a lot of those issues.
So, what would you do if you wanted to save your house?
To save the house, using a bankruptcy would require a reorganization, right? And so that's for most individuals, that's a Chapter 13. In very rare cases, for even for an individual, it would be a Chapter 11. But both of them would function the same way, which would be you take the amount that you're in arrears, the payments that you're behind, and you put them in a Chapter 13 plan. And so in order to file a Chapter 13, one of the things you have to show is that you have a regular stream of income. So that could be pension, Social Security, employment wages, business income. It could even be disability if it's enough. And then once you show you have this stream of income, then what you would be doing is, while you keep the payments current going forward, so you pay your regular monthly mortgage payment as it comes due while you're in the case, but then you're also making a separate payment to your Chapter 13 trustee that goes towards catching up those missed payments, those payments in arrears. So one of the things you have to have for the Chapter 13 to work is enough income to both pay your regular living expenses, including your monthly mortgage payment, and then have enough left over to pay that extra little bit to the trustee.
Oh, okay. How would that work if you had a car? And is there a scenario where you could save the car, or is there a scenario where you can let it go and not have it on your record? Or how would that work?
Sure. So if you had a car and you were behind on the payments, but you wanted to keep the car, much like with a house, you would look at filing a Chapter 13. The difference there is you would, for a car, you pay the full amount you're going to pay for the car in the Chapter 13. So you no longer have a separate car payment. That payment is included in your Chapter 13, but it may wind up being lower for various reasons. Very often in a Chapter 13, you can reduce the interest rate that you're paying on a car. So while you might have an interest rate of 10, 12, some people even up to 20% and higher on their car notes, you could reduce that interest rate in bankruptcy maybe 6%, 7%, something like that. It shifts a little bit over time. So that could be a big savings over the period of time that you're paying for the car because you're saving a lot in interest. The other way you could save money by paying for a car in Chapter 13 is because sometimes, depending on how long ago you bought the car, if the car is worth less than what you owe on it, you could pay just what it's worth and not have to pay the full amount you owe on it. So that could be a real savings. We run into people who they may have a car that's worth 10,000, but they owe 20 on it or even more. And they could pay the car in what's considered in full by just paying what it's worth. In my example, paying the 10,000 as opposed to the 20,000 that's owed on. So paying for a car in Chapter 13 could be very beneficial, could save you a lot of money over the course of the time you're in the Chapter 13 and that you're paying for the car. If you want to let the car go, then you could look at filing a Chapter 7 case and just walking away from the car and having it be that debt for the car be discharged in the Chapter 7. So there are a couple of options there depending on which way you want to go with a car.
Wow. Okay, so if someone had further questions, how would they get in contact with you? Are you doing virtual meetings with COVID-19 happening and everything?
We're doing virtual meetings. So there are a couple of ways that they can contact us. One, they can call our office at 404-373-9933 and schedule a virtual consultation with us. We use Zoom, we use WebEx. We can also do just a phone consultation. If people want to do just a telephone consultation, we do that as well. They can email us at info@wrightbklaw.com and set up a consultation that way. Or they can go to our website at wrightbklaw.com and go to the contact us page, and we have a link to our calendar, so they can just directly sign up for a consultation on our calendar.